No, let's just do a little bit of the main topic. Let's see how
I'm
it
curious
feels.
what the text said. I'm sure the listeners are curious too.
Uh, okay, I was calling you, but now I'm going to bed.
Hmm.
And it's weird. She never's like, oh, where are you? I need to know where you are. It's usually like, see ya. So the fact that it was like, where are you? I was going to bed. Wink, wink.
Are there winks in there?
No, that's why I'm like, if I go up now, it's too late. My gamble's over.
Yeah, I think you lost your gamble. Yeah, I think
I
it's
think
too
so. And well, then think of this then. What's the point of the text? Make me feel bad,
probably.
right? Well, you know what? Podcast away, folks. I'm pod friggin' tastic.
Yeah, we should do a podcast about women, and then I don't know that we.
Never let them.
Yeah,
Never publish it.
yeah, never
Never
publish
ever
that
publish
because all
it.
the women in the world are going to be like, oh, "What did they say? Oh, you can't say that.
Can't say
You
that.
can't say that.
These men just won't pander, will
Never
they?
stop. They're just like all the rest of them."
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny is, do you think there's more women like that, or men who think like women they belong in the kitchens? Like, you know what I mean? Like the overly sexist guy who like, what does she know about sports? Like, you know, they're just like way over the top, where you're like, mm-hmm,
So the
here
comparison
you
is men who feel like women should be in a certain place, and then the other one's women who believe men
are.
should be in a certain place.
Right. Do you think there's more of one or the other? Actually, I bet you there's more men who are sexist, like super sexist. I'm talking overly sexist, not like a little bit, like over the top.
I think so. I think men would be more outwardly sexist, whereas women might just be quietly, passively sexist.
Right. Well, there are some that are just like,
They just
you know,
yeah, they want a certain thing and they're just hoping and hoping and hoping for it, and when it doesn't happen, their lives get crushed and they have to
do you know how,
adopt a bunch
you
of
know,
cats.
do you know how I said I was listening to that Shock Jock radio
Mm-hmm. Yep.
in Delaware on my way home today
Mm-hmm.
from vacation, folks? They had lesbians on, and this was entirely for the Shock Jock purpose, and I
Mm-hmm.
was totally listening the whole time because I was kind of enjoying it. Two lesbians.
Two.
One used to date men. One never dates men, hates men.
Okay.
One that used to date men and everything was like, I love my new girlfriend. We've been together for 2 years, but she won't try new sex toys.
Hmm.
Which is whatever. Like, I don't know their relationship.
New
But
sex toys, like different ones, or
just, well,
in general.
sex toys in general.
Okay.
And the other girl's argument was, well, I don't use sex toys because they're too reminiscent of men. And I was listening and I was like, what? And she's like, well, if you notice, sex toys are shaped like men, and I hate men. And I was like, whew, seems like a real winner here.
It's a lesbian and a feminist.
Right, and I don't care if you are, but like she's literally saying, I won't use an item that's semi-resemblant of a man, which they all aren't, by the way. Aren't there like butterfly things and like
Yeah,
whatever?
there's
Yeah. So, and on top of that,
curves
she
the
didn't
other
want,
way, lady.
she, she didn't want to please her own like her significant other, the person she cares about most in her life. She didn't want to pleasure her more than she did want to be angry at men. Like she was like I'm gonna show men, but really she's just showing the person she loved she didn't care for her. And I thought it went on for like 10 minutes, and they were trying to argue with her, and she's like, what if one was shaped like a woman's parts? And she's like, we just don't need things to make us feel better. I know what I like, and I think she should like what I like, which is nothing. It was like I was like, oof. I can't imagine being in that relationship.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I feel like that woman who is with her would want to leave.
Right? Wouldn't it's almost like, come on. And I get people hate men. Like, cool. I hate men. I would never date a man.
There's some douches out there.
I wouldn't date a man. Would you date a man? I might.
Nah.
Right.
Just sort of about
The right
money.
guy.
No.
It's about money. I did a sugar daddy. You know? But I would never be like so against one or the other that I would like it would control my life like that, you know?
Yeah, I just assumed that something happened in the past. Or something
Do
where.
you know what she said? Hold on, what did she say? I wish I caught, it was like a 30-second blip where they were cutting in and out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she said when she was younger, she walked in on a relative of hers who was naked, And she immediately closed the door and said it was the most disgusting thing she'd ever seen, and she would never date men. And that's where her anti-male started.
Ugh.
How crazy is that?
How old do you think the person was? Like over 100?
She sounded no, she
No,
sounded
no, I
like
mean like the
27.
person she saw.
No, I think it was like her father or her brother or something.
Hmm.
I don't even think they were doing anything to himself. I think she just saw a penis and was offended by it. It was disgusting, offensive.
I think that's where her memory blacked out, and then
Uh
the
huh. Maybe.
psychiatry took over.
Could be. Could be. Anyway, folks, if you are a lesbian, a gay, a straight, and in between, use whatever the hell toys you want,
Whatever
folks.
you're deciding, it's fine with us.
And use whatever the hell you want in the bedroom. I don't care.
Yeah.
You can use shoes. You can use no prophylactics. You can use flip flops. You can use sea
Stilettos, baby.
turtles.
Stilettos.
You like stilettos?
No, that's somewhat. That, I'm just saying, it could be your fetish.
Hold on. It's weird that it came out of nowhere.
You
I
said
think that's-
shoes.
Yeah.
I think I
stiletto.
know exactly what you're thinking because I have that fetish too. Yeah, I know.
I think stilettos. I mean, they seem like cumbersome.
Yeah, and then that's the first thing you got to take off. I don't know how you really get into the sack with stilettos on. That just feels painful.
I've made love on rollerblades. I'll put it that way. While wearing them. Sorry. I wasn't like sitting on them. I was wearing them.
You like the
You
feel
love a pile
of rollerblades.
Oh yeah, that's what gets me. Those ABEC 5 bearings. Oh,
so smooth. I just greased them. So we're gonna move on to our next topic here, which is the main topic of the day. And
hey,
hey,
yeah, folks, get ready to get dirty. We got something for you called Medican.
Medication, and drugs.
Damn it.
Should we try that again? We got some new topic for you. It's called medication and drugs.
I ruined it. Medicine.
Main
drugs.
topic of the day.
We're all stoked for it, folks. None of us are just kind of counting down the hours and minutes and seconds, and we're fading.
Yeah, we're fading out. Okay,
Let's do it.
Have you ever done a
Get
challenge? Like the cinnamon challenge where you try to eat a spoonful of cinnamon?
No, I did saltines.
Saltine.
trying
How
to
many
make
saltines in a... Like,
You're supposed to get 8. I got like 4, and I couldn't breathe. I was like, ugh.
what's the trick? You have to supposed to eat them without water in a minute or
Correct.
something?
It's a timer. I couldn't do it. Even close. I got to like even halfway of what the record is, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah, impossible. There's also like the milk one. Gallon of milk.
Right. It's, your stomach can't hold.
Mm-hmm. So there's inherently toxicity in everything, right? Like you can't physically eat certain things.
Not water, pal.
Not water. Strange you should pick that up.
Oh shoot! Really? Oh, here we go. Let's dive in.
Yeah. So you actually can be, you can die from drinking. I think it was 3 or 4 gallons of water at a time.
Oh, is this the frat thing?
Well, I think there is a frat thing with
Hazing
alcohol, and then people try to make it up with water to balance out the alcohol. But there's also.
Well, I was under the impression that they weren't allowed to use alcohol because they were recently in trouble, so they were hazing with water. So they were like, chug, rookie, chug, pledge, whatever they call people. I was never in a frat. And they were like screaming at him. And I think they made him chug so much water that he had a brain embolism. And he died from water. This happened like 7, 8 years ago somewhere in PA, I thought. I don't know. It was like a big deal because like you can die from water.
Yeah, you can die from water. I don't know what the symptoms would be.
He had a seizure, I believe.
That all your
like there was just so much water. I guess maybe his brain was drowning. I don't really know the scientific term for it.
I think that would mess with your like salt balance in your body, and then like things would start going
Maybe.
crazy. You'd
Right.
probably have like muscle disorders, and then blood would start seeping into weird spots.
Right. Blood would do some weird stuff too. Thins out, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Andy Warhol actually was. He died in the hospital, and they say that he gained something like 20 pounds of water because they had misjudged his IVs. Like they kept giving him IVs. So he went in at like 160 pounds and came out at like 180 pounds, dead. and they say you can't gain that much weight unless you're that much water is put into you. So they say instead of the surgery or whatever he had, he actually died from the amount of IV fluids that they gave him.
So nurses killed him, not doctors. Interesting. So nurses are the bad guys in hospitals. Is that what you're saying?
Unless they
All the nurse listeners.
Yeah, that's
It
probably
is
a
interesting,
surprising
though.
number of the
So that
population.
probably. So what you're saying is, even good things can be toxic. Is that what you're getting at?
I think so. Yeah, like sugars,
Anything can be
all the
overdone.
sweets and being diabetic, everything in moderation, right? I mean, maybe that's a
Right.
good metric.
It's probably a good metric for all things, even mental. You can't go so deep into something. Like I imagine there's got to be a sickness for people on like weightlifting forums on like page 832 of should I use carbs before I run and then work out versus a guy who says it's always proteins after a run, bro, but before you run. And then like or after a workout but before you run. And there's like page like 14 of the article, your triglycerol level gets too high. I notice I gain always 0.4% more muscle mass when I run after a protein shake. And like if you just go too deep down any road, I was picking weightlifting for whatever reason. It seems like there's a sickness involved.
There's always like a contradiction, and people just ignore it.
Right. Well, it's a mental. You're so deep you don't see. When you're that deep, you can't see the wider array of things.
You
The
always see
normal things.
the bodybuilders with the shake. You know, they have some sort of protein in it. They've got some like creatine, and then they've got something
Right.
else. And you know, if you think that like, I can always envision them like drinking from it after they pump some iron or during, but you never see them like eating anything else. Like somehow that, I wouldn't say it's a myth because it's probably somewhat true, but you never see them eating like a steak mid exercise. Like they don't have like a piece of jerky.
Steak.
Like like the key to getting muscles is eating beef jerky while you exercise. Like you never have a piece of jerky sticking out.
You might find them though.
Yeah,
I'm not
maybe.
100% sure because there's going to be someone in the questions post that says I eat eggs in between my reps. You know what I mean? We'll be like, well, okay,
They
that's
down
fair.
them with a shot of beer or something.
Straight egg out of a blender. I don't know. I just feel like anytime you go too deep into something,
It gets weird.
because you're not I want to say shallow enough, but what's broad? You don't have a broad enough array of intelligence or viewpoints to make sure you're not falling into a pitfall. Like I don't know. Like
It's
you're
like
so
the
deep
level
in
of
weightlifting.
gullibility.
Right, you're in it too deep. I don't know. It becomes religious. You become too boiled down to one point, and all your points are kind of in that one thing, so that the rest of your personality, the rest of your life, is kind of flat.
Yeah. Well, you're trying to culminate all the, I guess the myths that you hear. Like it's a science of how you build muscle, but no one really knows.
100 right.
Yeah.
People know, but they don't know, and it's probably different for every person too, which makes it
Yeah.
always change.
Different body chemistries and stuff, and you're
Right.
it's not like an instantaneous thing. People build
Mm-mm.
muscle over time, and it's just like you're providing your body with these things. You just don't know really the proportions that you need, so people just go overboard.
Right. 100% agree. What I think though is we're getting too into bodybuilding because I did not plan on talking about bodybuilding. I was just picking bodybuilding at random because anything people seem to get too absorbed in, even if you go deep enough on hockey forums or something, and you're like, they're talking about guys who are coming out of high school right now who have a Fenwick score of like 2.83, and their offensive zone draws are always resulting in a 1.94 back checkpoint, and you're like, whoa, we better relax. This guy's in high school.
Yeah.
He might start JO into anime and quit hockey, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it's his
Let's
first
relax.
hockey game ever, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, he's got a Carosi score of like
Of
1
course,
point."
he scored off the charts. I'm sure he does, and I'm sure whatever. But it's just people get too
They get way too
focused. Right. You bring the piece of paper so far up to your face that you can't see the rest of the paper. Is what I'm getting at.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna have a minor sidebar here. So
Mhm.
I was looking at like these creatine drinks in my local smoothie place, and they
Mhm.
say like they have flavors on them, and one of them's like berry, which is generic. I think another one had like champagne on it, and they had a bunch of names that were like some of them were trademarks, some of them were like
Advantage.
asterisks. So they had a bunch of different symbols to say.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, they're taurine always has like a cross and something. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know what you're talking
Like
about.
this
Yeah.
doesn't actually help you, and then like the one that had champagne on it was like this is not actually champagne. So I was like,
Gotta
why?
spell it for the muscleites,
Yeah,
man.
why would you give your drink that flavor, and
And
then
then also have to have a cursor that
yeah.
says like, please, this also is not just champagne.
Hmm. I don't know. I just thought
Oh
that was
man,
weird. That was probably my smirker smile for the day. I was just
mm,
like, what the hell?
gotta tell the
I
people.
just gotta, I had to get it off my chest because it was there and it was gonna get lost. I don't want it disappearing because it's for you guys.
Into the ether.
Hmm. It's gonna disappear back in the ether. But on the flip side, so people are trying to do these things with maybe overdosing, overdoing uh, methods for betterment, I guess you would call them.
Mm-hmm.
So the strange thing is that, so this is going to get deep here. Let's go a little deep.
Okay,
So cancer, it's a terrible
wrap it up.
disease,
I've
um,
heard of it.
and the cures to cancer. One of them's like chemo.
Yeah,
So it's like it's intense.
poison.
Yeah, it's poison for your
Poison.
body. It kills the cells
Sure.
that are rapidly being cancerous. They're generating,
Right.
regenerating themselves really quickly. So where do you think that came from? How do you think they came up with chemo?
Do you know, or are you
I
asking?
do know actually.
Okay, hold on. Let's see. I feel like it was an accident, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Someone had too much cleaning solution in their blood.
No, no. You could think it maybe it could have been like a cocaine or some sort of like accidental drug.
No, it wasn't going there.
I
But
don't
go
think
ahead.
so. But no, it became noticed during World War II, is that people would get hit with mustard gas, and then the people who would survive the mustard gas, they'd see that their levels of like I think white blood cells or something like something that would rapidly grow, became
Mhm.
diminished, but they survived it. So they just had doctors on the side that were like, wait a second, like we could use this towards something, and then like 30 years later they developed chemo out of mustard gas. So something that was
Out of
intended
poison.
to kill somebody could
Became
then.
a heel.
Hmm.
Hmm. That's interesting. I guess.
So they're really inflicting cures on
Well,
people.
so the Germans were the good guys.
Yeah.
Is that what we're saying?
Let's not get too deep on our known our known hatred of the
Listener,
Nazis here.
our Nazi hatred.
Yeah.
Should it be turned around? Were they really trying to heal people, Dan, with mustard gas?
I don't know. It did go off on some spiral that I wasn't going to touch on, but
Okay.
man, they did some crazy experiments to people just
I
to
didn't
see
even
what the
want
human
to.
body would do.
Yeah. Because I didn't. Is that Goebbels? Or that was the
Goebbels
general.
was
Who
the
was the
advertiser.
general? Right. Then who was the scientist?
They had a bunch of crazy scientists, just like,
Okay.
oh, some terrible things. I kind of want to go into it now that I'm thinking about it.
Go ahead, because I don't actually know. So I'm going blind.
So there's like they intentionally amputated people to figure out like if they could survive things. So they did physical changes, they did chemical things, they did like
Castration and all that crap.
yeah,
Different kinds.
yeah, they'd like hit them with different like acids and stuff to see if it would do whatever. I don't know. It was terrible. So they hit them with like fire, and then they would like lack of oxygen. They'd put them in these chambers that would suck out all the oxygen, and then they'd see how long they could
Like
survive.
Deadpool?
Yeah, like, exactly. Like Deadpool was
Okay.
in that oxygen deprived chamber.
Yeah.
So they're like trying to test like what the human body can endure.
Mhm.
Like some crazy, crazy stuff that really, I mean, there's much more, I guess, sane and I wouldn't say comforting, but like better ways to do it. But they didn't care because they had subjects.
Right. Well, I guess this goes to their ideology that anyone who was in their group of ring of hatred. Do you know if they even had differentiating levels of hatred? I know they hated the Jews. They were like they're animals, pretty much.
Hmm.
They needed to get rid of them. So,
I think
as
it's pretty
much as it
anyone
doesn't.
that wasn't them, right?
But hold on. What about like someone from Dutch or something? Now, that's
That's the
like
part of the war you don't really hear about. Is that there probably was
I'm just-
other groups.
sure, and they probably dislike them, but not like to that degree, right? I don't know. Like, do they make delineations where this person's a Jew, or this person's but they're from a neighboring country. We don't like them, but they're not like that. Like, did they do that? I don't know. Or was it only Germans, only purebred, only like the white fair-haired types? Because what about dark-haired guys in their ranks? Like, were they like looked down upon? Like, I don't know where their lines ran.
I don't know. You get the same sort of thing where Like history likes to take like one point and just like drive it.
Polarization.
Yeah.
Polarization. A good guy versus a bad guy. There's
You
no
hear,
in between. There's no medium. There's no right.
you
It's
hear the
easier to
same
tell
thing
the
about the
story that way
slave
too.
trade too. Since we grew up in
Right.
America, I felt like America was like number one for the slave trade, but that's totally. I mean, I wouldn't say it's totally not the case, but there are
Right.
definitely
Right.
a lot of other countries during
It
that
didn't.
time period involved in the slave trade, and it's not only from the African countries that they're pulling slaves from.
Right. I have heard this. Like again, we're
Not to
not.
diminish anything that happened. It's just.
No, no, not at all. Just there is more to a story,
Hmm. So
which is interesting.
yeah. So the Nazis probably hated anybody that wasn't them,
Wasn't that?
and then they're performing all these like nasty things.
Well, did they do all that? That's what I was going to ask. It was all Jewish people or no?
No, no, there
I
was a
imagine.
number of different people. They would like perform surgeries without anesthesia.
African Americans? No, no, no. But on who? African
It's
Americans?
a variety of people. It's whoever
Okay,
they
so
had
it
in
was
the camps
just
at the time.
whoever. It was just anyone. It's
It's like
crazy.
even
I guess.
children. They would do this on children. Like they had twins, and they're like, "Oh, jackpot! We finally have twins. Like we can do these crazy experiments on." It's just like, guys.
What it tells me is that they literally thought they were kind of like animals. Because I mean, I could see people doing something like that to animals.
Hmm.
What gets me is that it's not. When does it become your ideology? Like, because you're clearly not born like that. So is it just being a citizen, or once you join the Nazis, you kind of get this, or is it a whole? I guess it has to be a whole cultural thing, right?
I don't know because I feel like maybe some of the scientists really want to know like the science
Right.
behind it. They don't. I don't know that they
Okay.
care about like you
The
can be a
people in general.
psychopath and be a
Right.
scientist.
Scientist, you're right.
So maybe they just
So
find the
attached.
scientists that are psychopaths and they're like,
I
go
guess.
ahead, do it.
Now, what if they ask a scientist who like kind of had a conscience and was like, I don't want to do that. Like, does he do it, or does he say no, or does he risk getting killed himself?
Maybe they were forced
I don't
into
know.
it. I did read up about what is it, Nuremberg trials, right, where they
Yeah,
tried
yeah,
war
yeah,
criminals. There
Yeah.
are some of the doctors that were involved in this that genuinely did not
Do anything really?
I wouldn't say they didn't do anything, but they didn't aid and abet. So they were let off and not found guilty of killing war criminals or war prisoners of war rather.
Okay. This is all very interesting, but I guess it also ties into today's stuff, like right now, where you get groups that are polarized so much that it's like they almost treat each other like not human.
Well, which groups are you talking about? You're gonna get specific, or are you just gonna go back to a?
No, I was being fairly general, just because the most staunch, let's say even in America, Republican will hate the most liberal, right? Regardless of the actual belief. It's more like that group is less than human, that group is always wrong, whichever side. But I guess the only way to justify what you're doing to another group, or voting against another group, or whatever to another group, is to think of them as less than human, right? Because otherwise, to do so would to break some kind of human code. Like, what I'm getting at is anytime you do something extreme, the only reason logically that you'd be able to do it to another group of people is if you thought they were less than human, and you were like a good guy. Do you know what I mean? I always come back.
I could see the good guy argument, like you're doing it for the betterment of the human race by finding
Sure.
out you're sacrificing one for many.
Right, which I wouldn't agree with, but again, that's the only way that I could see them functioning as a logical being.
I don't know if it applies to like left wing and right wing people though.
Yeah, I guess they're not as extreme.
Yeah.
Could it apply to suicide bombers and stuff, though? They think that what they're doing is right. It's for the greater good, right? I think. I don't know.
I guess they're like the level of drama is their like impact. So if they have like the most dramatic suicide bombing, that they could change
And
the
they
hearts and minds of
convert the
people.
most people, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's all weird. I don't get too far into that. I guess we're not the type of people who would ever be swayed
Yeah,
one way or
because
another.
we're moderates on that type of thing. Because we're not going to go
Right.
swing left or right, and we're not going to go crazy on people.
Because we take things in moderation, in a way. It's like those people kind of go all in on one thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is unhealthy to come full circle, right?
Yeah.
So if you're all in on Allah, mix in some Buddhism, mix in some veganism, have a little bit of pet love. You know what I mean? Go to a golden retriever forum and check out what everybody's doing with the dogs. I don't know. Start weightlifting. I don't know, do a little something else. Diversify your portfolio, right?
Mm-hmm.
Diversify. So if you're a suicide bomber, our advice as unpanders, diversify. Come on. Come
See the
on.
world, they said.
Check out The Sopranos. I don't know, watch some cool TV. There's lots of good TV out there.
I could see legitimately someone enjoying something and being like, I don't think I'm going to do this to people. There could be a Tony Soprano out there that I don't want to.
Yeah, right? Well, anytime you diversify, you take in more viewpoints, more lines of sight, more opinions, more differing things than your own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Again, those people that are so uber focused on one thing and probably only read one type of information and listen to one type of leadership,
Mm-hmm.
they become, I don't know, overzealous, over the top, unhealthy.
Moderation.
Moderation, folks. Moderate the moderation. We just broke it down. Did we solve the world's problems?
I think we did.
Holy shit, Jeebus.
Man.
Woo!
All right.
Woo!
High note.
Folks, I'm jealous of me also.
Huh, interesting you should say jealous.
Oh, I didn't buy the shirt. In fact, it probably appeared on a previous episode.
No, actually, I don't think I've seen that yet.
Nice.
Do you know the difference between jealous and envious?
No, I do know Brad Pitt figures it out probably at the end of 7, but I still don't know. What is in the box? He enviously thought. Oh no, that's jealousy. He enviously thought. I don't know. Okay. Do you know?
The Simpsons actually, Homer says the difference between jealous and being jealous and envious. So jealousy is that you're afraid that someone's going to take something from you.
Mm-hmm. Envious, you want something that belongs to someone else.
Yeah, it's something you don't have.
Right. Well, sure. Okay.
So you can have envy because you don't have bars of gold.
But hold on,
you can't be jealous of people. You're
not jealous of your neighbor for having a better car? Is that called envy?
That's called envy.
Really? So it's a misused word, huh?
Yeah. So if you don't have a wife, you can't be jealous of someone who has a wife. You're envious of them. But if you have a wife,
and they have a better wife,
that they're going to take your wife.
Hold on.
The car,
that backwards.
In the bedroom.
That doesn't make sense though. Hold on. You're jealous someone's going to take your wife?
Uh-huh.
That doesn't make sense.
It seems weird. Trust me.
Okay.
I did this too because I found out like 2 weeks ago and I was like, really? Are you sure? Internet? Are you sure?
Were you asking? Oh, I thought you were asking.
Yeah.
Are you sure? No. I can't do some impersonations. Don't want to end up sued.
So you should look into that.
Interesting.
I'm going to go back to the mustard gas though.
Go for it. I'd like to hear more about mustard gas.
So that was like an accidental cure, right? And it was the same thing with penicillin. So
accidental cure.
Yeah, I think it was the guy's name was Fleming. He was working with something, and there was a fungus growing on his samples. Like he screwed up a petri dish and was like, "Oh, there's fungus on here. I mean, just wait a second. This is
scrape it away.
Yeah, this is curing something." And then he made penicillin out of it. And
wait, this is curing a disease.
Yeah.
Anyway, he figured it out somehow.
I'm gonna take a turn here though. So like he found a way to cure something by accident, and that probably happens all the time. It's kind of like
I think it does.
You're
always
making these random scenarios so that you can find a medication that cures something random. And I'm gonna spin it. So there's people that have in the past like searching for cures for, I think it was like stomach ulcers. They came up with aspartame.
Warts or something.
No, they didn't come up with a cure. They came up with fake sugar.
Oh, really?
And the way they came up with that is because they had like a cigarette, and they accidentally put the cigarette in the stomach ulcer cream or whatever it was. Yeah, and it tasted so sweet. So they're like, "Wait a second." Yeah.
I like that they're just haphazardly smoking around the subjects, like while they're out of their cage and like just having a good time.
This is like back in the 70s, I guess.
You were allowed to do that stuff. Although wouldn't have discovered it otherwise, right?
That's true, but it doesn't. I don't know if that makes it right because it's not. It's like a manufacturing, I guess.
Sugar, sweetness.
Yeah, manufacturing sugar, but
which is already not good for you.
Yeah, there's no.
So an unnatural sugar.
Yeah, there's no cure to it. It's just unreasonable, I guess.
Makes sense.
The same.
What I was gonna say. Oh, good.
No, keep going. You got it. You're gonna say something.
Nope, I forgot. In that 1 second span.
I apologize.
Oh, it was the light and dark of all things. You could do a whole podcast on it, but you're making, let's say, penicillin.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine there's a light side and a dark side to every single thing on Earth. Recently, I've been doing a lot of Buddhist research, so a lot of my thoughts, this is the way I think.
Mm-hmm.
Alan Watts, I'm just saying.
So you're saying like the method that they found penicillin is there's the light side and the dark side is
Overused, or I don't know. Oh, penicillin was a bad example. Which was the one where someone was trying to make a cure for? Oh, mustard gas, the dark, and then the cure for cancer, the light. Like, all things have a spectrum of good and bad, and it really depends on how they're used, how it's overused, how it's underused, what it's applied to.
Mm-hmm.
And so all things kind of have differing values. Like something like good for you, milk, when a small dose here, could be deadly at dose here. It could be very good to other animals. It could be really bad to certain animals. It kills them instantly. Like there's a light and a dark to all things. So they all have, you kind of find a balance. I don't know.
I like
You're
it.
just kicking that. But mustard gas was my example when you were saying it a few times.
It's kind of a matter of perspective. It's like as a scientist, if you're testing something, you want to gather the data and make it as objective as possible. Because your perspective is, I'm trying to cure something, or I'm trying to fix something.
Science isn't, though.
Yeah.
Science is just about measuring the actual data.
Mm-hmm. So someone later would come by and take your notes and say, you know, it shows like you've cured cancer here, but you don't realize it because you're just trying to cure warts or something stupid. Like,
right. I'm going to use it to poison babies, or I'm going to use it to make a new sweetener for Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Exactly.
Diet Coke with 0 calories. Woo! But yeah, I guess it's all about light and dark a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Which also brings me back to moderation, as I may say that word a couple times. That you can find something in the middle.
Yeah.
I just think going too far in one direction tips the scale, so to speak. It's nice to be able to see both ends. You only see it from the middle, right? I don't know. Unless, oh my god, the light gets so bright it turns dark, and the dark is so bright it turns light, and we got a friggin' circle. That's all I was going with. I wasn't going to go any further. Just some deep thoughts. Maybe it's too late at night. Maybe I...
Getting a little sleepy. Possible.
I did my vacation drive today. I hit no traffic, incredibly. Wow. I'm a really good driver, though, so that's probably why.
Let me bring up one more thing.
Do it.
So I was watching a Netflix show called Chef's Table. I was just distracting people.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Chef's Table.
One of the things they were doing in like the second episode was that so peppers are originally like their goal is to get, you know, when a pepper makes itself, I guess, I don't know what the word is.
Born. I know you wanted to say born.
I was saying born. But when it's made, it has the seeds, and the seeds are intended to be spread by birds, so they could proliferate.
Makes sense.
So the birds actually can't taste the pepperiness, like the spiciness, the capsaicin. So it's like nature's way of saying like birds are a perfect mate for the peppers.
So is whatever the spices and peppers supposed to scare other animals away though?
Exactly,
just not
because
birds.
The birds
I didn't know that.
The birds can travel the farthest.
Okay, so they want the birds. They don't want the other animals. They're garbage. They're worthless. They're stupid.
So there's some innate intelligence there that, like the pepper, which doesn't have any intelligence, is trying to manipulate.
No, evolution.
Yeah, evolution. We'll just evolution it. But what the chef in this one episode was saying was he was using chickens and they were eating like a puree of peppers, and he was trying to make an egg that was spicy without adding pepper to it.
Okay.
So he was getting these chickens to lay eggs that were full of capsaicin and pepper that were the color red.
Were they spicy?
Yes. So he got... I'll let that sink in.
Go ahead.
It's like no
Go
one
ahead.
ever tried this before.
So it worked.
It worked.
He's made a breed of spicy eggs, and you just have to feed these chickens
Crazy amount of
so
peppers.
much pepper,
Yeah.
like an inordinate amount that wouldn't
Pepper.
be worth a spicy egg,
Yeah,
right?
but maybe
Okay.
who knows how much that spicy egg? I
You're
mean,
right. What it's worth is what it's worth.
it's unique, and it doesn't hurt the chicken. So it's like, wait a second, like this
That
kind
is
of makes
interesting.
sense.
I never thought of doing that, and it gets enough of that through the birthing process.
Yeah, the egg was actually red, and they had the guy eat it on camera and was like, ooh, like this is spicy.
Weird. He's like, this took dozens of years and thousands of dollars of peppers. What do you think? He's like, it's like if I had an egg and put a little pepper on it. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
he's got it.
He's got it. My life's work. But it is cool.
Yeah, the whole episode was about the manufacturability of plants and crops. So they want like the biggest of something that fits inside of this box, so they could package it and sell it to the masses. And it was the opposite of that. It's like, why don't you just like grow something that tastes
Work your whole life.
fantastic? And they're like,
And it's very few in supply and demand.
yeah. And the farmer's like, well, no one's ever asked me to make something that tastes good.
No one's ever asked me to do something delicious.
Yeah.
That is weird because it's the opposite of capitalism.
Yeah. So
Capitalism kind of sucks, by the way.
yeah, in certain fashions.
I'm not anti-capitalist. It does suck in some ways. They all suck. Moderation, folks. Moderation.
Yeah, I feel like capitalism has this tiny little percentage that's like, ingenious stuff that should be happening and just showing the world what that stuff is.
Self-proliferative. I got
Sure.
that right.
Sure.
After I messed up all those other words.
But then there's like 90% that's just bullshit. That's just like,
Well, and it destroys poor people.
Yeah.
It makes the rich richer. Like, it screws up markets, whatever.
Let's allocate all the wealth to those people who can dictate what happens.
But otherwise, it's hard to allocate wealth in general. We're not going to get into it.
Yeah, we're never going to get. That's yep, topsy turvy.
Slippery slopes, folks.
Yep. Don't want to have a hankering for that pankering.
Slippery.
All right, I think that concludes our episode for this evening.
I think it does. I'm Nick.
And I'm Dan.
Almost got you.
I almost said you.
Together we are both
The
pandering.
Check our socials because we have a lot of them. There's a website
Check the
listed
website.
above, unpanders.com.
Finger blast this website. Just go there and just get deep. Folks, do it. You know you want to. Go check it out. Tell your loved ones that are over 18, and we'll not repeat a lot of the words we say.
Definitely.
Because we like you, folks.
We definitely do.
We like you a lot.
Keep listening because we do.
We like you, folks. We like you a lot.
I think that's